So it looks like the link just hit away.
Hey, Kevin.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Part of me wants to prod Tim, but I know that it will not be appreciated.
So why? Because you're not here?
What's that?
I said because you're not here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I am Tim Herb, and as always, I'm joined by my lovely co-hosts, Mr. Kevin Bradley, who's calling in through a ghetto microphone because we can't find the cables. There are too many cables in here, damn it.
That's all right.
The studio has too many damn cables. But I do have Dan James, trusty Dan James, coming off a beautiful, I hate to say it, a beautiful Harry Kane header to
two beautiful Harry Kane goals at least. Excellent.
So I was actually gonna come in today, and then England pulled out the win, and I just couldn't tolerate being around Dan tonight. So that's ultimately why I didn't make it into the studio today.
That's okay.
That's a pretty good excuse. So
England have more points than Portugal and Germany combined, which has never happened ever before.
Yeah, no, and much to my my dismay, Portugal with that 1 point.
That's true.
No, but that was heartbreaking for me to see that.
Yeah, but geez, Cristiano Ronaldo, that guy is amazing. I mean,
I don't care, man.
Incredible work. I mean, excellent solo effort from Diego Costa, but good Lord, Cristiano Ronaldo. Guy's a legend. Do you see him get off his team bus to talk to the crying 7-year-old fan?
Okay, so I'll give you that. I'll give you that one. It was really good. It was really good of him to do that.
Did that for the kid.
I hate that he did that, but it was.
He does that a lot.
I know he gets a lot more stick than he needs to get, but
apparently he doesn't have any tattoos because he likes to donate blood every month.
Oh yeah.
Did you see his Messi taunt during one of his celebrations, or at least that's what everybody's assuming it was, because Messi had the whole article with him, with the goat and all of that, and one of Ronaldo's goals, he starts stroking his chin like a goat beard, essentially.
Oh, man. Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. I know we're 15 minutes late, dealing with some technical difficulties in the studio. But thank you for joining us on YouTube. If you guys are watching us, make sure you hit the like button, the little thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and the notification bell if you haven't already, so that you can get notified whenever we go live, just in case we do have to switch streams like we did tonight. So, and if you're listening to us on iTunes, podcasts, or Stitcher, or anywhere that you're listening to us on podcasts the morning after, the day after, thank you. And if you guys would be so kind to leave us a rating and or a review on your preferred platform, we will read it live on the show. We got a couple.
That's the other reason why I'm not in the studio. I'm on strike. 2 weeks without a new review or rating. I refuse to come back into the studio until we get one.
Well, I've just made so many different Gmail email accounts to get onto iTunes. I'm just exhausted.
Yeah, Dan.
I feel like it's your turn, Kevin.
Thank you guys for joining us on the trap.
I actually left a review on our iTunes page. How pathetic is that? That was one of the last ones we got.
I know Dan was one of the first ones we had, but that was before he joined us permanently. So
that's right. So technically, it's still
it's all about
a review.
It's all about padding them stats. Thank you guys for joining us in the trap. We got a couple. We got a lot of familiar faces, friendly faces. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad we're able to keep you up. Joe Johnstone saying he was just about to go to sleep. Michelle, who we met out at Elder Tree 2 weeks ago.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, she's a huge England fan from
Good
England.
girl, Michelle.
Yeah, one of your compatriots.
You can tell she's an intelligent woman.
One of your ex-compatriots? Is that are you guys both expats?
I guess so. I don't quite understand all the terminology behind that, but I mean, I'm legal anyway.
Yeah.
You're an immigrant in my eyes and always will be, Dan.
That's okay. So are your the forefathers of this country.
Yeah, we got Brian in here as always, Dirty Bird Person, aka ATL Chris or Chris ATL. We got Michael Ruiz in here. Thank you guys, Brittany S, Bill Holcomb, who we met out at Elder Tree as well. We called him out on the show during the live chat, and
nice.
He came over and hung out with us. Kevin, you have some housekeeping stuff to put in right now, or no?
Oh God, I don't know. I'm all out of sorts. What I'm looking at you mean the fantasy rankings?
Yes.
Yeah, I can do the fantasy rankings. That's fine. I got it pulled up right here.
Before that, I have a story to tell, and we got a part of housekeeping is mentioning all of our sponsors and everything. And a big push over the past couple of weeks was our Away Days partnership, which we had mentioned are an actual advertiser for the show now officially. And it's been this really cool thing watching the podcast grow and change over the past year and meeting so many cool new people. And that was no better seen than this past weekend. I was at my pool in my neighborhood, and I saw somebody wearing what appeared to be an Away Days kit. So I ran over to him, and it was the Dynamo Zagreb or whatever, however you pronounce it.
That's right.
Close enough.
And I walked over to him. I said, where did you get your kit? And he said, Away Days. I said, how'd you hear about it? And he said, oh, this podcast I listened to, Home Before Dark. I was like, wait, what? No, I live in this neighborhood too. And so if you want to be one of the diehard homies and find those mystery kits in the streets, be sure to go check out awaydaysfootball.com. That's football spelled the American way, FOOTBALL. And use promo code HBEFORED and get 15% off. And, yeah, we had a little bit of a slump, but now that it's getting towards the end of the month, I think everybody can contribute and get back into the international sport of things with the World Cup going on. I know I'm going to order another one this paycheck this week, and hopefully we can see some more out at the games and at our community pools, as it were.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Kevin. Maybe the homies out there can find other Away Day football purchasers and then take pictures of themselves with that person and tweet them to us. And then
that would be awesome.
Then maybe by the end of the summer, whoever's found the most could get a sticker pack or something
like
equally
Pokemon
as...
Go, but with mystery kits.
Huh?
It's like Pokemon Go, but with mystery kits.
That is exactly what it is.
Kevin, I'm gonna be a little douchey here, and I'm gonna say I'm gonna kind of lord this over you. I know we talked a few weeks ago, and I remember saying that I was like the most milk toast guy, and I'd be the least recognizable of the group.
Yep.
I'm just gonna go ahead and out ATL Greg from Twitter as being the guy who Kevin ran into. And I didn't have to like in a roundabout way. I saw him in the atrium or the concourse whenever I was going to get a drink, and we caught eyes. I was like, "Hey, Greg." He's like, "Oh, hey." And so he recognized me, but he didn't recognize you.
All right. So to be fair, it's just like whenever I went to the Terminus Legion watch party last week, and I had on a collared button-up shirt tucked in and no hat on. People that see you outside of your Atlanta United fandom and me with a drink in my hand. Granted, I was at the pool, so I had a drink in my hand, but no shirt on, sunglasses, no hat or ATL UTD gear on. I'll forgive them at least.
Yes. That's fine.
Still savage. I guess you should just buy another kit to make up for it.
Yeah, it's true.
That's right.
Yeah. I need to get a new kit.
Maybe you'll get a tank top just to balance it out.
Ooh, that would be kind of dope. I've gotten some great tank tops from mystery grab bags over the years, as you may know. Maybe if I drop a couple pounds, you guys will see the sweet fresh print Kevin and I both own.
Oh, no, that's happening. The August 19th Columbus game is when we both go and wear matching Fresh Prince of Bel-Air tank tops.
And I'll be wearing my boot. It'll be great.
Yeah, it'll be great.
My
I'll be sweating it up.
Yeah.
Oh, gross.
My surgical boot is going to be on. That's going to be fantastic.
Kevin, in the trap, Kevin Brown is pointing out that you were actually wearing a Speedo, and so we tried to avert his eyes. I don't think he would be able to see after that. With that eye burning.
Maybe that's why he didn't recognize me, because he was just staring at my package.
Probably.
We need to have a contest of the three of us to see who's the palest. Who is the most British Isles? And I know Dan is from the British Isles, but
my wife will tell you that I am whiter than white. We just got our house painted white, and I am whiter than it.
Translucent? Yeah, well, you need to go and get better paint then. I don't. Anyway, prediction league rankings, or no, fantasy league ranking. Let's go ahead and go through that real quick.
Man.
I am still dropping. I'm on a precipitous drop in this league, and I feel like I'm the worst of the people who still play, and better than the people who don't play. So maybe that's
I'd agree with that.
It's a little disheartening.
I didn't realize that everybody in MLS played last Wednesday night. So I was like, oh, okay, well, it's just the Atlanta game and one of the other two that were going on. So I forgot to set my lineup because I was busy. I'll set it on Thursday. And I had 3 players play last week on my entire lineup.
Oh, good job,
Everybody
Kevin.
was on a bye.
That's funny because I forgot about it too, and still schooled. Still, oh my gosh, what is going on? I guess that's karma for you. I still scored a cool 83 points.
Bill Holcomb says, so Tim is the MLS fantasy equivalent of the Mendoza line. Yes, that is correct. I am almost outside. Damn it. I had this really cool term in my head and I already forgot what it is. It's like the spectrum for things that are logically debatable. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Definitely on the spectrum. You're good.
I can't think of it either.
All right. Fuck it.
All right.
I bit off more than I could chew, guys.
That's
I'm just
okay.
going to go ahead and swallow my pride there.
I'm going to give a shout out to positions 8, which is Andy Watkins 80 with his soccer specific team with a cool 114 points. 114. Good Lord. That is the highest out of the top 20. And then I have to call out number 7, Svats and Mighty Reds with Oldstand.
He dropped from number 2
because he
down
scored
to number 7.
35 points.
He must have forgot to set his lineup.
Pathetic. But anyway, number 5, Downhill's Dream Team by Popkin, 100 points with a total of 1,437 points. So nobody is ever going to catch him.
That's all anybody cares about.
What?
Where's the bar of our beings? That's all I care about.
You can wait, Kevin. You can just wait. Got that? All right, number 4, Claremont Lounge FC, where dreams go to end and die with Lewis, 93 points. That's a total of 1,452 points. Good Lord. And number 3, Kevin's favorite team, Varvar Binks, with at Kevin Gorham, 91 points, 1,458, clawing up the table. Number 2, Dog for Him by Benson, 103 points. That's a great showing that week. Well done, Benson, with 1,464 points. But of course, on the top,
Benson, you said?
Yep. Jacob Floppy Beefcake with Stats and Trends, 92 points with a crazy, outrageous 1,564 points. Incredible. Nobody's going to catch him. We're going to invite him on the podcast, and I'm sure he will politely decline. Good job.
We have our other.
We'll invite him, but we'll invite somebody by a different name, so he'll never make it on.
We have our other game going on, the Prediction League. Guys, I'm still messing with the World Cup Prediction League, so if you guys are trying to do that, I've not put in scores yet. I apologize for that. We have Kevin Gorham, number 1 with 7 points so far.
Who's that at number 2, Tim?
Dan James is tied for number 2 with
my gosh.
Brian Olivas. And then you got Chief Tata Homa, and then Come Have a Bagel, PM Nilsson, Timothy Herb. Who's that? Andrew 22091, and then GT Quick, all tied for 5th. Yeah, it's heating up. We'll get the World Cup stuff going.
One of the only people that picked England to win, so there's that.
All right, so let's get down to brass tacks. We haven't recorded in 2 games. We won one of those, 2 of those. No, one of those.
We drew against NYCFC.
We drew against NYCFC last weekend.
We smashed Columbus.
Yep.
And then England won today.
Yeah, I don't care about that. So we it's been a while since we did.
And Orlando keeps losing, so that's like a win too.
Yeah, no, they actually won the other day because they got rid of Christ. As a lot of you guys are saying, #Christ out. It's Christ in. I wish, like Kevin Brown said, Christ in.
Dirty Bird person reminding us that we actually beat Charleston.
Oh, Charleston and Columbus since New York City?
Yeah, because Charleston was. God, man,
the
World Cup.
NYCFC.
World Cup screwed up everything in my head. Yeah,
completely destroyed me. But I mean, either way, the results went our way. Excellent job, everyone. Which game do you want to talk about first?
I don't really want to talk about NYCFC, so let's talk about Columbus. I put that in the notes, Kevin. I don't really. It's already been kind of beaten to death by everybody else. So no, okay, no objections.
Okay, great.
Yeah, all right. So Columbus we were playing against the third overall team in the East, or overall the third team in the East last Wednesday. Pretty hot team coming in pretty much all year. They've been very consistent. They don't give up a lot of goals. We talked about that in the preview leading up. It was going to be tough for us to score, and it ended up being kind of a tough game. We ended up edging them out. I would say edging because I still felt like they were a threat, and that I felt like we weren't necessarily the threat we should have been pretty much the entire game. And it's not, eked out a win is kind of hyperbolic, but
I think we played. So here's my deal. I haven't seen us this season play balls to the wall, going 100 miles an hour, trying to kill the game. I felt like we managed this game relatively well. I was a little concerned when we were giving Guzan a lot of possession and kicking it around the back. It felt very very kind of reckless. But then since it all worked out, it seemed a good idea just to slow the game down, keep control, get Columbus chasing the ball around, and it ended up playing into our hands. I mean, we keep on just snapping win streaks all the way around. We snapped Orlando's, and look what happened to them. Columbus, we snapped NYFC. We've been doing a great deal of damage around the league, yet we are still just not feeling like we're firing on all cylinders yet. I feel like we're kind of lackadaisical.
For me, that in the Columbus game, the biggest thing there was that it was contrary to everything that I expected to see in that match. I thought that game was going to be entirely defined by their defense against our offense, and that we were going to be pressing and trying to create opportunities on their half of the field, and that they've been a more defensive team in my viewing of them this season, and the game was anything but that. It seemed like the ball was on our half of the field more times than not, and we were having to strike on a counter or something like that just to try to make something happen out of nothing. That was the biggest thing to me, and maybe it was by design to try to get them chasing balls and stuff like that, but it didn't seem like a game that played to either team's strengths in the way that they've played the rest of the season, in my opinion.
That's true, but I mean, one thing that we've seen from last season is I haven't really seen our strengths in any of the games that we've played. And yet we've been able to pull out a lot of wins. What have we got, like 17 points on the road or something crazy? Like, I mean, it's the hope that kills you, but it's given me a lot of hope for the second half of the season.
By the way, to our buddy Jason Longshore for getting the call up to replace Dan Gargan for the Columbus game. Congratulations to Dan Gargan on having a brand new baby boy.
That's right, man. Congrats.
He's had to beat our dad to the punch.
He did. He's beaten me to that. But anyway, with Tata sort of managing the team, a lot more, trying to keep the energy managed a lot more than we were doing last season when we were just trying to kill ourselves. But he's I think we've subbed Barco off at the 75th minute for the past 3 games or so, and he seems to be managing the energy levels. I feel like we're playing at a good
probably around 80% Tito Villalba, who's healthy for the most part, coming in, that's able to spell Ezequiel Barco. I don't know. I'm just going to call him Ezekiel. That's how it's spelled. And
let's call him ZB.
Yeah. Anyway, it is weird that he's sometimes with an S and sometimes with a Z. I don't know if you saw that, but it's interesting. But at the same time, if we're going to have to take him out of the game, Dan, you want to come?
Oh,
sorry. I was starting to hear the chewing. I know people don't. We've never had the issue, but I know from other podcasts that people definitely
up until now
creating issues in my absence.
Oh, so many issues.
He can't get the mic in the right place. Now he's chewing gum. Well, he's just so cocky because of England's win today.
I know. Don't worry, Kevin. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
Let me know beforehand so I can hop off.
Yeah, we'll make sure that you you bounce. We I don't know. It is good. It's as Kevin Brown pointed out in the live chat. He said Tito coming back and scoring was huge. I mean, it shows just again the depth that we have, but also the ability for us to play in different ways. I mean, you saw it too whenever Romario came in, and I put this kind of in our whenever we were chatting earlier. Is I wouldn't mind seeing an experiment, maybe one game with a 4-4-2. Or phallic formation 4-2-2-2. Let's do it.
I feel like if we
what I mean is Romario Williams and Joseph Martinez playing alongside each other, which we've seen for a 45-minute clip before, and it appeared to be a good partnership. But
yeah, that was was it the Charleston game that they were playing together?
I can't remember.
Oh gosh, this is terrible. I mean, we could do that.
I don't think it was because did Martinez even play the Charleston game?
I don't think
he didn't. He didn't. So it must have been Columbus.
It was Vasquez and Romario.
It might have been Columbus, or not Columbus. It might have been Philadelphia at home or something like that, where we were able to finally break that. Anyway, no, we saw our depth in scoring options and offensive options on Wednesday night.
We certainly did. Andrew Colton getting a goal.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you're talking about for Atlanta United too?
I just jumped back to a different game.
Yeah, or you're talking about Charleston. Yeah, I don't know. He scored multiple goals in the past few weeks in different leagues, so you're all over. I don't know. What other takeaways did you have from the game? Because I mean, I feel like we kind of shut them down a little bit. We kind of saw the Jossie Zardes of old. He had a few missed chances, and thank God, because he has been on fire all year. He's been finishing his chances. He's been one of the best strikers in the league. And the fact that we were able to keep him from scoring, and then Federico Higuain seems to always miss a few chances against us too, but being able to keep them off the score sheet was nice. But at the same time, being able to break down that defense, what we talked about between Awful and they have Will Trapp, and then they have Jonathan Mensah, not John Mensah. He's probably like 45 by now. And then Abubakar, who
he's a beast, that guy.
Right, exactly. And they play
in his second year. Crazy.
That's crazy. And they play right in front. Oh, it's Valenzuela, my bad, playing on the left back. Mm-hmm. And behind them, they have the best keeper in the league.
Yeah. I was really impressed with Chris Martinez on their left wing. What didn't he get left out of a World Cup squad? But he was running all day.
Was it Costa Rica that he got left out of?
I think so. But he was running all day. But I think we did a pretty good job of keeping the ball out of his way and creating triangles around him. But I liked his effort. He reminded me of Assad a little bit in that he would just keep going like a bulldog.
No, it was Panama that Christian Martinez got left out of. A couple comments in here.
Probably could have used him.
Yeah, Kevin Brown saying Parkey and Larry shut them down. Yeah, they really did. The two of them were outstanding all night. Guzan, Daniel Baez is saying Guzan has been amazing recently. I also don't think he gets enough credit for organizing the defense. Absolutely.
That's the biggest talking point from NYCFC was Guzan's performance.
Yeah, and I think, and then he backed it up again in Columbus.
Right.
I mean, he's
the
been
other
balling.
standout player for me, which, it goes without saying because he's so good, but he's got a tendency to get inside his own head. But you just saw the resiliency of Joseph Martinez in that Columbus game to break his nose on a goal and then to get up, plug it up, and then just keep on going was really great to see.
I was very surprised to see whenever he came off the field. So we were watching it at a watch party at Rosati's Pizza, fantastic Chicago-style pizza in Buckhead with Terminus Legion on Wednesday. And it was, we had our attention kind of drawn away for a little bit. And whenever we looked back up after he scored that goal, I could have swore he had a concussion. So I thought that he came off and I thought he was going through concussion protocol. And then I remembered MLS concussion protocol is a joke. And they don't ever really check people on the sideline. It's like the inverse of the NFL concussion protocol. Anyway.
I'm pretty sure it's just a global soccer concussion protocol is a joke. I forget what game that was in the World Cup. But
Morocco.
His arms locked up and they just sprayed some water on his face.
That was
champ.
Amrabat from Morocco just went limp. I remember seeing that, and they were like, "Oh, he's grabbing his knee." I was like, "Dude, he is fucking locked up. He's in full rigor. He's in like living rigor mortis right now."
His teammates sprayed him with water. It was like, "Come on, let's go."
Yeah, the physio's just slapping him in the face. It's like he's good. He's good.
I was just expecting to hear Joe Rogan out of nowhere go, "Oh, on the button." but that certainly was not the case. And yeah, fucking Amrabat, man, that guy's a champ. Anyway, yeah, he took a dinger.
Yeah.
Joseph, any concern? He's questionable for the Chicago game, and I would imagine also for Sunday.
I don't think we
he's
see him.
questionable as in if he had to play that he couldn't, but the fact that he has any sort of an injury like that, there's no reason to play him against the Chicago team that is a threat. But we have weapons and we have depth that he doesn't absolutely have to play, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that I totally agree with that, Kevin. I think we see Romario at the start.
At the very least, he comes on late as a sub if we get into desperate.
Do you think so, or do you think? Well, I guess we're a little bit more serious now, and Chicago are probably pulling and getting a little bit more serious with the Red Bulls getting knocked up.
Whenever you look at the path that Atlanta has,
so pregnant right now.
In this game, we play a USL team, both good caliber teams, but the road's there. It's the winner of DC Orlando. We've got the USL competition, and who else is it? SKC and Philly. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So again, it could be an Atlanta SKC matchup, or hell, even an Atlanta Orlando matchup. But it's the road is there for us to at least get to the semis. So I think that Martinez is still in the 18. I don't think you take him out completely. I don't think it's necessary for him to start, and maybe he comes on in the second half if we're really kind of getting our back up against it, or if they somehow come out and take an early lead. But I don't think he gets the start, but you at least put him in the 18.
Bill Holcomb with probably my favorite comment all night. He's saying he can't wait to see if Joseph puts a picture on a mask, like a broken nose mask, like he does with his shin guards. Dude, he should go fucking full like Phantom of the Opera, go half mask.
Oh, that would totally suit him. That would totally suit him.
He's so mysterious and then just serious whenever he scores a goal, and I don't know.
I can totally see him doing that.
I'm not going to say it's the stiffest competition. Well, first of all, hold on. Let's roll back to Columbus. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about with that game? Takeaways, anything like that?
Tim, I can't even remember what my wife asked me to get her from the grocery store, let alone go back to Columbus.
I will say the last point that I had about that game was
thanks for spelling Columbus right.
It didn't. Did somebody not spell it right?
I didn't.
Anyway, the last thing I want to point out is I just felt like for us, it seemed like we had a lot worse passing than we actually did. And looking at it, to Columbus's 80%, I think we were 82% passing. It definitely didn't seem like that. It felt like Larry was losing the ball all night. It felt like we were giving it up, kind of trying to hold the line up front and hold for our midfielders to make runs. And it
really felt like we were just trying to, get out. I feel like we kind of just sucker punched Columbus, just robbed them of 3 points, like we robbed NYCFC of 2 points.
Yeah, I think so too. And though it may seem the other way around, looking at the scoreline with that late goal that they got,
we did not deserve to win that game. That was definitely 2 points lost on NYC's.
Exactly. We're not arguing you. We agree with you completely on that.
Gotcha.
Okay, I would not say that it's the stiffest competition still available, because you have last year's finalists who got knocked out last night against Philadelphia. Yeah. New York Red Bulls lost to Philly. Medunjanin still gets to play. Has anybody heard? Has his suspension been levied, or are they just going to try and bury that under the rug?
I think it got.
Does it matter? Does it translate to Open Cup play?
It doesn't. But at the same time, I feel like I've seen him playing in the league since the game against us. I may be wrong.
I haven't followed enough to say one way or the other.
Either way, I still haven't seen any news about his suspension. Yeah, Keith Filer, our buddy down in Macon, saying it has not been assessed, which is kind of silly. I feel like they're just kind of hoping it goes away. It's not black eye in the league, but it was definitely a bad incident. And I feel like it should be punished.
Bill says they were on a bye last week too. So
okay, gotcha.
It's Longshore approved, so it's not been assessed yet.
Gotcha. Yeah, it seems odd that it hasn't yet, but then again, this is only our second year following the league, so sorry, guys.
Yeah, so they played. They got beaten by us. They played Richmond Kickers in the Open Cup, and then they played Toronto, in which they lost 2-0 in MLS. But but Junanin was not playing in that game.
Gotcha. So as Kevin stated before, we have Portland still left, who we'll talk about in a little bit. They beat LA Galaxy on Friday night. On Saturday, Philly beat New York Red Bulls. SKC took out FC Dallas on Saturday. And then Houston Dynamo are up right now against Minnesota United. The one thing that's crazy is so far, I don't know how this compares to last year. You want to pull? Is there any chance you could pull up last year around this time in U.S. Open Cup or no?
Let me look.
Because what I was going to say is there are only 3 USL teams left, or 3 non-MLS teams. And those teams are Sacramento Republic, Nashville, and Louisville. And that just seems, the Cinderella is not really there, right, Kevin? I mean, we have LAFC, by all accounts, should beat Sacramento on Wednesday night after we play. And then between Nashville and Louisville's the better of those teams. But at the same time, I mean, seeing Louisville, I just feel like there's less parity this year in U.S. Open Cup, or at least perception to me, and perception's reality sometimes is that the parity is not there between the 2 leagues or the 2 divisions the way it was last year.
Just the way the matchups fell. Last year it didn't seem like. I mean, we had a couple of USL upsets in the first round, but there weren't really any of those key matchups that lent itself to USL advancing in any meaningful way. And then you look at this round, and like you said, you've got 2 of the best outside of Cincinnati having to play against each other in Louisville and Nashville. So, and Miami, you saw last year, had a little bit of a surge, not really much of anything this year, but I think it's not necessarily a disparity. Obviously, there's going to be some of that, and there's not a Cinderella story to speak of, but I think it was just an unfortunate series of matchups that the USL was given this Open Cup, and the way that the teams that they had to play were really starting to be better than they were last year in some of the USL MLS matchups. You know what I mean? Last year's matchups seemed to lend itself to USL advancing a little bit easier.
Well, I mean, so in the round of 18 last year, there were 3 USL teams. It was Miami, Cincinnati, and Sacramento. So
right.
Okay, so it's the same amount. It just, to me, it seemed a little, maybe it's just because we got knocked out by Miami last year that it seemed like there was more. I just felt like there were more upsets in the early rounds too last year than they were this year, but maybe not. I don't know. Again, just maybe it's just fresh on my mind and all that.
Yeah. So Louisville are top of the USL right now, I believe.
Yes. No.
I think the biggest surprise
Cincinnati.
Is that Cincinnati's not involved in any capacity, but
yeah, I mean, for them, I guess they can focus on the league right now and then focus on their 2019 campaign in MLS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so they went out to Minnesota in penalties in the last round, which, I can't stand Adrian Heath. Sorry, complete side note there. But no, it's going to be interesting because I believe we play the winner, whoever wins between Atlanta United and Chicago. Atlanta United will be playing either Louisville City or Nashville. I believe that is how it's going to
That's how it's going to shake out.
I believe
there's no
so.
draws, no random draws coming up again in some guy's basement. No,
it's guaranteed that we play the winner of that.
Were they so? Did they change the rules because they were so embarrassed by that production that they put on for the random drawing?
Aside from the production, I still can't get over the fact that they displaced Orlando out of a natural region into.
That was bizarre.
That just seems like such an odd decision.
Right, that's saying. Well, yeah, I guess Atlanta is a little bit more explainable, but that was very bizarre, and it played right into the narrative that Orlando is not the South.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So speaking of, you mentioned kind of MLS U.S. Open Cup matchups, and it's an all MLS affair with us in Chicago, and a team that we went to Chicago and beat. And we kind of got off on the right foot. Kind of got ahead of them and then just kind of clung on for dear life as they attacked us for the last 45 minutes of Tortellini time. And now we're having to face them again. Obviously, I mean, they're not in the best run of form right now. I mean, they're, I think 3-2-4, including the game that we played against them with losses against us, obviously Philadelphia, Houston, and Columbus. So pretty good teams aside from Philadelphia, who's, mediocre. And then you have their wins are pretty abysmal, especially at this rate. I mean, you're looking at San Jose, not one of the worst, one of the worst teams in the West. Montreal, one of the worst teams in the East, and Orlando, of late, one of the worst teams in the East as well. it's not like they're impressing right now. And I don't know. We haven't been in the greatest run of form lately. We haven't hit a rich,
No.
we kind of hit a skid for a little bit. It was less a skid, and we kind of hit neutral.
Yes, we haven't seen peak Atlanta United yet.
Though. That's the thing. You can't underestimate them just because of that. Teams like that are always going to capitalize on it if you give them the opportunity to. I think the matchup lends itself well in that we are at home and we've had a little bit of rest. I don't think Martinez gets the start, but it's not like going on the road to NYCFC or something like that. I'm less concerned about this matchup and this game than I was, even with our backup and our depth, than I was 2 weeks ago with our starting 11 on the road at NYC. You know what I mean?
It'll be interesting to see how Chicago Fire plays this game, because right now they're sitting in 7th. They've got a game in hand over Orlando, and they have the same amount of points as 19. So it'll be interesting to see, will they do cautiously or will they sort of rest themselves a little bit to charge forth and to try and get into the playoffs?
They were able to stress Atlanta in our last game was they pressed extremely high and they attacked every single ball. And anytime a player touched the ball from Atlanta's side of the field, they were swarmed by 2 or 3 players in the midfield. And I think that's what NYC was able to do, is to stifle Atlanta, where you've seen them get more comfortable with the ball at their feet and they want to create space and one-on-one opportunities, whereas NYC is able to sort of ping-pong the ball down the field with one touches, maybe a settle at most before they're playing the ball off. Atlanta really wants to settle the ball, pick their head up, see what opportunities are being created, and then distribute and play the long game rather than the quick 1-2s and stuff like that. I mean, it happens occasionally, but that's where they've been limited, is teams that tend to keep them from their inherent ability or tendency to want to pick their head up and play something that is going to build up over the course of the rest of the pitch.
Yeah, but I could see that, but then I could also see Atlanta go in the short passing route, because Chicago Fire just don't have the talent that we have, and although they were at home last time, they were trying to press us all off the puck, but I feel like we weren't necessarily outplayed in that game. So I could easily see us going that. It will be interesting to see, because they could go a couple of different ways. You're right that the teams that have had success against us have been the ones that are trying to bring it to us.
Yeah, Dirty Bird Person saying, admittedly, I'm a little worried about a press if we got guys that aren't used to playing with each other, and Chicago goes full roster. So, and this kind of goes back.
Yeah, because they've got nothing. They can play the cup right now because of where they're standing at, whereas we're going to be bringing in some of our backups. Chicago's really going to be out there trying to take a run.
Do you think so?
Thing,
I don't know. I honestly feel like we have more of a need to do this. For them, they're fighting for a playoff spot. We've all but got that locked up. For us, it is about supporter shield, so we're playing really on 2 fronts. But they are. I think they're probably more focused, and obviously this is all conjecture, but I feel like they probably should be more focused on the league than they should be on the U.S. Open Cup. So whenever you have older guys like Nemanja Nikolic and Alan Gordon and Schweinsteiger that may need the rest going into this weekend, I don't know how much they play.
But at the same time, you got to think about it from the same perspective. Honestly, let's look at this objectively here. I think the winner of this game has one of the best paths to an Open Cup championship, whether it's us or Chicago. The next opponent, either way, is going to be a USL team, and then you're looking at a potential matchup against DC United or Philly or Orlando. They've got just as much to play for from that standpoint as we do. So I think that because of their standing, that it lends themselves to really attack it as hard as they can.
Well, if you look at, I have their lineup up right now from their game that they won in penalties in the last round against Columbus. And aside from Nikolic, you don't have a whole lot of threats. Solignac, I believe, scored a goal against us up in Chicago last year, but they have Nikolic up front in that game, Diego Campos, I think, on the left, Johnson, and Solignac, Tachani, Branico. I mean, they're not. I mean, you look at the guys on the bench. You're missing Johan Kappelhoff, who's one of their starting defenders. Dax McCarty came in late. Alexander Katai came in late. Alan Gordon stayed on the bench. Bastian Schweinsteiger came in late. I mean,
So
I don't know.
here's one other thing to take into consideration. 3 days after they play us on June 23rd, they have to travel to Seattle to play Seattle
Again.
on the road.
Old tired
then-
legs are not gonna do well on that flight.
And then they've got New York City at home, and then they go on the road to Vancouver. So they've got a little bit of a tough stretch coming up here.
Especially when you look at the East and the fight for those last two positions, you have probably 4 teams right now that can be vying for a playoff spot between Orlando. Legitimately, we'll see what happens now that Kreis is out, if they kind of rally behind the new manager or not. I mean, Philadelphia, we talked a little bit of shit about them. They're a pretty solid team. They're not great. They're really not a good team, but they're not a horrible team. They can score, they can defend occasionally, and they have the great goal stopper. But I mean, what are we looking at right now? I mean, Toronto. I'm going to go ahead and concede. Toronto's going to end up with a playoff spot.
I'm not ready to say that yet.
I am.
Week in and week out, I find myself questioning it too, Dan.
Yeah.
I guess the only thing that makes me think that they would squeak it out is because you see Orlando falling so much, and somebody's going to have to rise to overtake that. And the same sort of deal with Chicago. You know, I don't know if they're necessarily that team. It seems like that stretch from 7 to 10 in the East is kind of anybody's game to leap. So,
yeah, I mean, you're looking at Toronto, conceivably Toronto, Philadelphia, Chicago, and New England, all vying for the last 2 playoff spots.
So for Toronto, they are 2 games. They have 2 games in hand on us. So they're at 14 games. And that would, if they win both of those games, that puts them from 15 points up to 21, which would take them
to 6th.
To
or no,
6th.
It would take them 6.
It would take them to 6. But then if you look at Toronto's next 2 opponents, which would be those games in hand, you've got at Yankee Stadium for NYCFC, and then you've got the Red Bulls coming to your house.
This interesting stat Bill Holcomb just put in the live chat is saying DC has the 6th most points per game when you weight home and away games. That is interesting. They're playing nothing but away games right now, right?
That's true. Yeah. Before their stadium opens up, and then
they're going to go on a stretch like we did last year, and they can score goals. They're a team between Maddox and Assad, and I think Ian Hart scored a goal last week again in that TFC game that they're mentioning in there.
I thought on our run last year, our home run, I felt like Assad was one of the players who ended up really suffering from being tired. I mean, he would go for it all the time, but I felt
probably
like
in the last 2 games of that stretch, because he came out guns blazing. He got his brace against LA Galaxy, and it was Galaxy, right? Or was it?
He scored against oh my gosh, not Red Bulls, the Revolution. I think he scored against Montreal as well.
Yeah, he had a great hot stretch whenever we started that home stretch last year, but
then he was exhausted.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Like he got subbed in the Minnesota game. Yeah, we shall see.
Sorry, I was trying to pull up that DC the DC box score from the 4-4 Toronto game. I mean, Michael Ruiz makes a good point, I guess, maybe swaying me towards. He said TFC has not earned a playoff bid when they are down 3-0 at home to DCU and have to score an extra time goal to earn a point. Yikes. That is a yikes moment. But and I forgot Paul Arriola on that team. So you had I mean, you had Assad scoring 2 goals, Darren Maddox, and then Paul Arriola. They have a good attacking front. But also, we'll see what happens whenever Toronto gets fully healthy. That's been the story all year between that and Champions League. But
that's right. Dirty Bird person Assad had a brace this past weekend.
Yes, he did.
Good for him.
Okay.
Love you, Assad.
Okay, so path is in our favor. It's really the first U.S. Open Cup game at Mercedes-Benz, which is going to be exciting. We're going to have a full house for that. I unfortunately will not be there, but.
So what is you guys' thoughts on that being the 18th game for season ticket holders? Not you, Dan, because obviously you couldn't be bothered to buy tickets.
I say suck it up, Buttercup.
Or this.
I think it works out, right? Because last year, if we would have gotten a bye, we wouldn't have gotten that 18th ticket, or we would have.
Yeah, but think about the revenue they would be missing out on if they gave season ticket holders a playoff game.
It's sucky, but if we get the supporter shield and we get a bye, I'm more than okay with it.
I really don't care. It makes more sense because U.S. Open Cup is going to be probably less attended to begin with. And
yeah,
then
you can get tickets dirt cheap.
Yeah, you can get them pretty cheap, and if you're filling out a guaranteed 37,000, or you're having 37,000 tickets being distributed, either kept by the season ticket holders or sold, you're going to guarantee a pretty ruckus atmosphere for a U.S. Open Cup game. Which, not to say that the Kennesaw State games or anything were lacking atmosphere or lacking people, but I mean, you want to fill that stadium out. You don't want. I guess you don't want to. Perception's reality there too, right? I mean, you don't want to have a not full house during the U.S. Open Cup in the middle of the week because we've never not sold out a game at Mercedes-Benz. So I'm okay with it. I don't really see any issue with it because I see us getting a bye in the playoffs, and I'm fine.
We better get a bye in the playoffs. I want that to happen a lot.
Yeah. Let's see what else. A couple things to note about Chicago, some of their tendencies. They're about a 50% possession team, which we'll probably end up taking possession from them. They're really hard to bury. I mean, we talked about it earlier with our game. They almost came back on us. We were really tight at the end. Was it? That was a game Alec Can played, right? Because it was coming off a Guzan suspension, correct?
Oh man, yeah, I think so.
And he had a game-saving goal.
No, Guzan was playing.
No, what game am I thinking? I might be thinking of a game last year. Sorry, that's okay. That Can saved at the very end, but it seemed like
because of Guzan's suspension, we had to go to that fourth string.
Paul Christensen. That's right.
That was against Sporting.
Yeah. So anyway, they're prone to comebacks. They're a hard team to put away, so we have to keep that in mind. Also, the way I think that Bill's right. Sorry, Orlando was the game that came in and played whenever we went down there.
Yeah, that's
right. One of our weaknesses of late, it seems like, especially if we're playing a 3-5-2, is teams that press up the wings and kind of condense our backfield or our back line.
Yeah, they've definitely been able to, if they can just jam us on the wings. That I felt like Tunis we were doing to England today.
Yeah.
Then teams have been more successful. But it's always like Barco takes one touch too many, Almiron takes one touch too many, Almiron passes when he should shoot. That was really something when he should pass.
That's something we didn't talk about when we talked about the Columbus game. Is we saw probably him at his lowest when it came to decision making.
Oh yeah.
Am I wrong, Kevin?
Oh yeah, dude. That's been the biggest frustration, is just the consistency in either taking a shot or making a pass. And you're right. It was just a complete indecision, and you've got to do something.
Yeah. So to Brian's point, he says when we are man marked across midfield and they block passes into Jeff Lorenowitz, things become difficult for us. Yeah, I absolutely. And to that, so we were talking about 3-5-2 and kind of our tendency to sometimes get clogged up. Even though we are playing only three guys in the back, they should be able to spread out a little bit more. But Chicago has a tendency to play up and down the wings.
Yeah.
So that's something to keep in mind. Is something that we saw against them whenever we went up to Toyota Park. And I'm not saying that I see us losing this game, but at the same time, I think it's going to be a really tough test, even though they haven't had the greatest run of form lately.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel it could go either way. Are you
one of those people that say this movie is either going to be really, really good or it's going to be really, really bad?
So it's not going to be really, really bad. I'm willing to stake what little reputation I have on that. If Chicago wins, it's going to be maybe a 1-goal game. I know I'm tempting the dread god here, but this is not a team or a situation that I see going.
It's not going to be like a 4-0 thrashing.
Like yeah, I don't see Chicago being that team based on every single game that they've played this season. If it happens, it happens. I'm sorry, but at the same time, I do not expect this team to be that team to do that at home for Atlanta. I just don't see that happening.
So the things that I could see going wrong is that the crowd participation potentially isn't there because, it's a weekday game, it's Open Cup game. I could see us playing our backups and Chicago going full bore But then I agree with you. I feel if we lose, it's going to be like a 1-0.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking through Chicago's games right now.
Or it could go on
Every single
penalties.
one of their wins are a 1-point win. I don't see anything on their schedule that makes me say, oh boy, especially right now with where they are currently, that makes me concerned about them coming in and really putting the heat on us. I think the most goals that they scored this year was actually against SKC early on in March, where they lost 4-3. But other than that, it's a lot of 1- and 2-goal games. They lost 3 goals to Columbus, but everything else, I mean, Chicago seems to be capping out at 2 goals at the most, except for that one against SKC early. So nothing about this matchup at home for Atlanta, even with the crowd, screams panic. I don't think that's going to be the case. Something might not fall our way, but I'm very optimistic about it.
Yeah, I think that's a good take on it.
I'm with you on that. Again, I mean, you're talking about those games that they won 1-0 or by 1 goal. Those are games for the most part, I think they were trailing at some point in those games. So again, we got to make sure we bury them.
I think the biggest point about this game from Atlanta, especially testing the depth and Martinez being out, if we get Tito into this lineup, knowing where he's been this year and having to either sit out with injury or be on the bench and Gressel start, I think that's what could be Atlanta's game changer in this match, is a hungry, healthy Tito Villalba who is out there to prove that he is still a very, very integral part of this team in the starting lineup at the top of the pitch, even if he's over on right wing or if he's starting at striker. I don't care which, but I think that he will be the game changer for Atlanta based on a lineup that's going to test that depth and get him starting, in my opinion.
Yeah, one of the fun parts about predicting U.S. Open Cup is predicting that lineup. I mean, Kevin, what do you expect? It sounds like you expect Tito to be up front.
Yeah, I don't think we use an international slot on Marco or on Martinez this week. I think LGP gets rest because he played the last Open Cup. I think we'll get Parkey in there. I'd like to see Martinez playing our international slot. I think Almiron.
You're going to have Martinez play?
Coming off of that injury. So I think that we'll see Almiron as one of those international slots, probably Martinez.
Well, can you only play a certain amount of international players in U.S. Open Cup?
Yeah, it's only 5.
Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
You can only play 5, yeah. So my 5 would be Almiron, Tito, Escobar, maybe McCann if he's healthy. I don't know. I think he's kind of iffy right now, so I don't know that we'll see that. But those 3 I feel pretty confident in. I think Escobar continues to develop. I've not seen anything out of him that says bench him. Parkhurst will be good to be in the midfield. Maybe LGP stays in, but I think he's up due for a break. Nagby and or Larry in there in some capacity, maybe Larry over Nagby and swap them out. But the biggest thing for me is I want to see Tito in there and make a big impact like we know he's capable of doing and go to the 4-back. So.
What do you think, Dan? Are you thinking 4-back as well? I see a lot more youth than Kevin is putting on.
Yeah, I do too. I'm not sure about the formation. I think so. ATL2 have been playing 3-5-2 a lot, I believe. I don't think they've been going back to the 4-2-2-1.
I forgot about Kratz.
Yeah, I think Kratz could be coming in to play the 10. I think
Chris McCann, for those of you in the chat, I do believe he has a green card, and he got that green card before the first season started, if I'm not mistaken.
No, he's an international slot. I remember us talking about
Kenwin Jones? Who got the green card before the season started last year? Was it Kenwin?
No. Gressel?
No.
Gressel?
Gressel still doesn't have his, does he?
What is going on with that?
I thought Gressel got one. No, McCann is definitely an international.
Okay. Yeah, my bad. I know Tito got. I was thinking before the start of last year, before the start of the first season, we had some guys on green cards that seemed very surprising, and one of them, I believe, was Kenwin Jones. So, anyway.
Yeah, I think it was Kenwin and Gressel that got theirs at the same time, if I wasn't mistaken.
Let's see. Brian says Chris McCann of Ireland has finalized paperwork to acquire U.S. permanent resident green cards, which means they will no longer count as. Or no, he says, will no longer count as international players according to MLS rules.
Oh, never mind. And Gressel doesn't have one. I'm an idiot. And it seems like McCann's is a pretty recent development. So
Yeah, our international spots are Almiron, BZ or ZB, whatever, and then we've got Escobar, John Gallagher, LGP, Gressel, and Joseph.
Wait, Chris McCann isn't on there?
He is not on there.
Oh, Chris McCann's not on that list?
Nope.
well, I'm an idiot. Say bye.
Oh, good grief. Okay. Yeah.
I could've
Okay.
swore I
That's
talked
right.
about that.
Brian said, I'm not crazy. Before the team ever even touched the field, he and Kenwin Jones both had green cards. Yes, from February 2017. So that was at least a month before the season started last year.
So international
Okay.
players that don't count towards it because they're on loan are Jose Hernandez, Oliver Shannon, and Gordon Wild. Though I don't think on loan to ATL2.
Yeah. Anyway, so lineups. I would love to see
So we're playing.
Pack Alpha 84, who new name in the trap. Thanks for joining us, Barco and
No,
Tito.
he's not new. He always shows up whenever me and Dan are on.
Oh, my bad. The Tito and Barco on the field at the same time make it happen.
Yeah. I mean, I could see Barco going on it. So
No,
we've got a
Barco-
game. We've got a game.
Barco played the last Open Cup as the 10.
But
But
at-
he played.
Yeah, I'm gonna lay this out though. We haven't come Wednesday. It'll have been a week since our last game.
Right,
That's
and then
plenty
we've
of
got
rest, and then you have four days after a midweek game is a lot. So to me, it's a non-starter. I think Barco's got to play.
And it's at home against the Timbers.
Yes,
Timber.
I know. I think Barco plays. I think he starts in both games this week. I think he's young. He's got the legs. He's been working his ass off. I think he's in shape. He's doesn't look like he's in risk of getting a knot. I don't know. It's hard to tell that stuff.
He's a good candidate to have more consistent experience with this team because we want. I mean, I don't think he's bedded in with this team. I don't think he's found his rhythm within this. And I think
No, he
just
certainly
getting
hasn't.
more and more minutes and being subbed off at 75th minute is fine with me.
Yeah, no, so you have your lineup out right there, or no? You have it written out.
I mean, I kind of have something together. I think
We're in agreement though. 4-3 or 4-2-3-1.
I think 3-5-2.
You think so?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think just because with the less consistent players that we're playing in, the 3-5-2 is going to be more of what we're trying to do. I could be totally wrong about that.
This is just saying Keith Filer had put in there, and then also Brian saying Minnesota just missed a penalty that would have drawn them level with Houston. So no respect. They're still the Rodney Dangerfield of the league, but much deserved.
So does that make is it Costa Rica the Rodney Dangerfield of the World
Yes.
Cup?
Yeah. So it's interesting though that they're keeping it kind of closer without Calvo in the game for Minnesota. Anyway, so we have I don't know. I think we have a good opportunity to deploy the 4 at the back. And I think it's kind of what we talked about earlier. It's just the way that Chicago plays up and down the wings, I think is going to be something that we have to think about.
And I think Tito makes more sense in a 4-back formation. And I think that I really think, all the talk about Barco maybe being in or how much veteran or not, that's my sticking point this game is I want to see a Tito start. Of all games this season, if you're going to start phasing him out and going to a 3-back more consistently, there's no reason not to put him in after you see his work ethic and what he was able to produce in the short span of time that he was on the field against Columbus.
Hilarious from Bill. Again, more people in this chat are watching the Houston, Minnesota game than
Don't worry, it's hot in the office too, Tim. They turn off the building air conditioner at like 6 o'clock. So
Oh, wow.
I'm sweating right now.
just predictions again going this week. I think Houston's going to hold on to that game. I think DC is going to beat Orlando, knock them out. I think that LAFC is going to knock out Sacramento, and I think you're going to have Louisville beating Nashville. As much as I'd like to see that Southern Fried Derby kick up in a meaningful game, I don't think it's going to.
I think Orlando pulls it out.
Okay. I think that's probably the only game in question to me.
You think Orlando
The
wins
other one I think
wins the
I'm
U.S. Open Cup and gets relegated in the same season?
Relegated. Don't get people started. Don't get our buddy Stan White on Twitter started for pro rel for you. Oh, okay. The other game that matters. Score predictions.
For Open Cup game.
I'm gonna go 2-0. No, I'm gonna go 2-1.
2-1 Atlanta. Kevin.
3-1 Atlanta.
Okay, I'm gonna go 2-0. I think you see Carlton start. Somebody had mentioned that in the chat. I think you can see Carlton over Almiron.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think that you see him playing the 10. I think you see Miles Robinson alongside LGP. I think that you see
Barco
I think you see Barco. I think you see Tito up front, and then Gressel on the right or Vasquez on the right. I'm not sure which. I would
like to see Vasquez over Gressel. Gressel's going to be playing Sunday. There's no need to play him. I think Vasquez is fully capable of that.
Backline to me is probably Mikey Ambrose.
Yes.
Michael Parkhurst. Or no, not Michael Parkhurst. Sorry. LGP. Miles Robinson, and then right back Escobar. And then
I like that.
I think you see Nagby and Lorenowitz, their duo in the middle, and I think you see Lorenowitz get subbed off for Chris Goslin in the second half. We saw him kind of show out against Charleston in his first senior team appearance, and I think that you're going to see a little more of that as well.
I haven't seen anything personally that makes me inclined to say that Goslin would be called up to start in the midfield. That's just me, though.
I don't know. For me, the telling thing was whenever Andrew Carlton was getting interviewed in the post game, and I just love the friendship that those guys have. I think it's.
I haven't seen anything out of his performance.
Yeah, I know.
In Tata's mindset more than anything.
Right.
Yeah.
So we got some predictions in the trap. Bill Holcomb 3-0. I'm assuming Atlanta. Brittany S 2-1. Again, I'm assuming Atlanta. Keith Lyer 2-0 Atlanta. Elliot Bevan 2-0 Atlanta, and Dirty Bird Person 3-1 Atlanta. I'm assuming.
And then we have the game to talk about for Sunday.
Portland.
Yeah, Portland. He already
Michelle,
has the score
3-1 Atlanta.
Okay, so Portland. This game has much scarier prospects, or it's a much scarier prospect than it was, say, 2 months ago, right? You saw Portland seemingly get off to what was going to end up being the start to a terrible season. Mm-hmm. Right, you replace Caleb Porter, you bring in Gio Savarese, and you had the whole debacle with Liam Ridgewell on TV in England saying that he's not even talked to the new manager, all this shit. And anyway, Portland, a perennial powerhouse in MLS, got their shit together. And over the last 8 games, they're 6-2-0. They have drawn their last 2 games, but those games were against KC. Well, and then I guess the LA Galaxy one's not so great of a draw, but at the same time they didn't lose. They got away with the point at least. And then before that they had 6 wins. Right, they had 6 wins in this the beginning of this 8-game stretch against Minnesota, who's not a terrible team. NYCFC, great team. San Jose sucks. Seattle sucks. LAFC, pretty great team. And then Colorado, who really are hit and miss. They seem to be a lot more competitive in some of their games than not, but actually, no, I take that back. They're pretty fucking terrible.
Yeah.
Anyway, but over that stretch, I mean, it's not like they are blowing teams away. I mean, they're averaging, I think, 0.57 goals for in that 8-game stretch, and then I think 0.42 goals allowed in that 8-game stretch, if I'm not mistaken. But I know they're 6th right now. I don't think anybody saw that. They looked like a team of major dysfunction in the beginning of the season, and now they're looking like a playoff team, especially with the downtrodden West again. And I don't know, they're a positive goal differential this year. They started 0-3-2 to start the season, and I don't know, they seem to have caught their stride, and they're kicking ass at the moment, and they have a few games in hand on their opposition in the West.
Yeah, they do. They're at 13 games. Wow, two behind Sporting KC with 15 at the top. Goal difference of 2 goals. 6 wins, 4 draws, 3 losses.
Pac Alpha is questioning my lineup, by the way. He said, how could you make a lineup work where Tito, Gressel, and Barco all start? I think that's the front 3.
You could do Tito up top. You could do Gressel on... You could do Gressel either in the 10 or on the right, and then Barco either in the 10 or on the left.
Yeah, I think it works. Anyway, back to Portland. again, they've been in a great run of form. I'm not so nervous about this game because we're going to be playing at home. We will have 4 days of rest, given a midweek game, which is pretty nice. We're not being asked to play on a Wednesday and then on a Saturday morning. So with that, how do you see that game panning out, Kevin? I mean, what are you expecting from this Portland game?
So I've only seen Portland in bits and pieces this season, and the one game that I really watched with any sort of intensity was their game against the LA Galaxy. And I swear to God, it was like an SEC soccer game. It was just all defense on both sides of the field. And so I was bored to tears, but nonetheless, it was a chess match in how both teams were going to respond defensively without overly exposing themselves to a counter that the other team is very capable of producing. So that in mind, I know it's a limited amount of information. I would tend to expect that they're going to be much more of a conservative team being on the road against an Atlanta team that is going to want to push the counterattack. And I think that they're going to try to clog up a little bit of the midfield and stop some of that forward progression. And I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I'm thinking maybe 1-0 one way or the other, and I don't know where that really falls because I haven't seen enough out of Portland to say. But I think it is going to be a low-scoring game, something like a 1-0, and I can't say confidently which way that may fall.
I'm pretty confident against Portland. So looking at what they have, they've only won 2 games on the road. And to start the season, their first 5 games were on the road. I didn't know that. And they got pretty spanked. But their road games, they've won a 1-0 against San Jose and then 3-2. Comfortable 3-0.
You think it's going to be that decisive?
I think so. I mean,
if it lands, all I want out of this game is for Nagbe to get a goal against Portland. I want Nagbe to score this game. Like that would nothing. Would make me
that would be that would.
happen.
Nagbe has had like 3 goals disallowed. I think
Exactly.
He needs to. He deserves a goal.
Yeah, if you take a look at their 3 losses, 2 of them I believe are on the road. Actually, all 3 of them were on the road. So you have LA, they lost at LA Galaxy, they lost at New York Red Bulls, they lost at Orlando City.
And they lost to Chicago and Dallas.
They drew.
Oh,
they drew away.
They drew.
They have 2 points away from home.
I can't tell the difference between red and gray.
So they have 4 points, 5 or 4, 7 points. They have 7 points away from home this year, which isn't that bad. I mean, for all things considered, with how bad of a start they got off to.
True, that's a good point.
But at the same time,
getting a draw against Dallas isn't anything to sneeze at.
Yeah. So the 3 losses, one thing I'm going to point out, the 3 losses that they had all come against teams that play a 4-2-3-1.
Oh.
And they're also a team that average less than 50% possession, and we're a team that tends to feed off of that. I think the more I think about it now, Dan, I think the more I am kind of leaning towards your prediction. I think we're going to be able to press them, I think, and I think kind of hold on to the ball. And just knowing it's not intangible, but us being at home, just that home field advantage is nothing to sneeze at. And that, along with just, I don't know, I guess they're a team that's bound to lose. I mean, they're on an 8-game unbeaten streak. They're a team that's bound to lose. We really don't, aside from 2 games this year, we really don't lose at home. And I
mean, I guess the thing that stands out to me is, to your point about the 4-back being the teams that Portland have lost to, is you've got to go all the way back to the beginning of March to really find out what meaningful losses that they sustained. And it's the first 2 games of the season against Galaxy and New York Red Bulls, who's still a really good team. And I know you're going to mention the Orlando game, that they lost 3-2, but you got to remember where Orlando was at that point in the season, and I think that plays a big part in that. Since then, like you said, they're undefeated, or unbeaten rather, and they're just squeaking out really low-scoring games. I don't think that look at their game against SKC. They're not overstretching themselves and allowing teams that are really talented to get the better of them. I think that 0-0 draw against SKC is kind of telling in that way, you know?
Yeah, and to LA Beevan's point, to kind of add to that Orlando thing, that was the game where they had was there smoke on the field during that game?
That was the smoke game that Dwyer gets the easy call for the PK, and then had a lot of distraction. I just agree to disagree here, guys. And I know every little bit and piece of it, but looking at where things are trending and where their losses came and when they came, and then what kind of results they're squeaking out lately and against who, it leads me to believe that they're gonna not overexpose themselves, and I don't know that Atlanta is the kind of team to bring teams out of their shell in a way that leads me to believe it's going to be a 3-0 sort of a game, you know?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, the teams they've beaten, I mean, they've been the Galaxy, Sporting KC. Well, they drew Sporting KC. San Jose, they beat Colorado, they beat LAFC, they beat Seattle, they beat San Jose again. They're not really teams that are going to come at you. Those teams do play more conservative game plans, apart from LAFC.
And the games that the teams that do attack again
Right.
were those 4-2-3-1 teams like Orlando and like NYRB. That I mean, Red Bull press almost better than anybody in the league.
Yeah, that was so, and they also beat New York City, but that was the weird time in New York City when they got beat. You know, they got spanked by Red Bulls 4-0. Yeah, they lost to Portland 3-0. Then they beat Dallas, and then they lost to Red Bulls 4-0. So
I mean, I guess the tricky thing is they've really only played like 3 teams in the past month.
yeah, that's a good point.
They played Galaxy twice, and then it's SKC and San Jose, and that's it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I could see us winning comfortably again. Just the home field advantage, I think, is going to be kind of one of the deciding factors. But I also hope that we do see that 4-2-3-1 deployed here the same way that we did against Columbus. I think that that's kind of the formula to beat Portland from what I've seen, and I think that we're going to be able to come away with that with a victory. I was going to mention this earlier. Only 2 players on the injury list as of right now, courtesy of Dirty South Soccer. Harris Kruskic reporting that Joseph is questionable, which we talked about earlier, and then Chris McCann is still questionable with that tight hamstring. It seems like he can't get over that. He needs to go over to Serbia, get that placenta massage on his hamstring. You remember that? Like, that's such a big thing that came out, and dudes were pulling their hamstrings and they were back in training in 2 days. He needs to go do that, man. There's nothing keeping him from ask Uncle Arthur to load up the plane and get him to not Zagreb. What's the capital of Serbia?
Man, I don't know off the top of my head.
Belgrade.
Speaking of Serbia, what are you guys thinking about the World Cup so far?
Well,
we want to move over to that now.
Predictions for Portland. We already said. I guess I'll go with.
I'm gonna make the call 1-0 Atlanta.
Okay. 3-0 Atlanta.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 3-0. I think Dan's convinced me there with that. I hopefully, knock on wood, we don't get any injuries coming away from Wednesday's game, and we're able to field a full, healthy team on Sunday against Portland at 4:30 kick. Correct?
It is 4:30. That's right.
It's going to be a fun game. It's going to be coming off the last match of the World Cup for that day, most likely, right? Because we usually end at 4:00, or is that just weekdays where it's the 4:00 ending?
Yeah, it might be a little bit later.
I think 2:00's the last kick.
It is during the week, yeah.
Yeah. So, but on the weekends, I think it's 1:00 is the last kick. I think they play earlier on the weekends, is what was happening.
Yeah, they start at 6 a.m. on the weekends.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude. Oh, yeah. And I was on Central Time this past weekend, so it was 5 a.m. for us. So
yeah, that's brutal.
It was kind of rough.
Yeah. So the last game on Sunday will be at 2.
Yeah, and that'll end at 4:00, and we'll be going into the stadium and watching our Five Stripes go and take on those Timbers. But Kevin, you guys both have alluded to the World Cup. It's kind of the elephant in the room that we can't avoid. I almost feel like, how long have we been going? We've been going an hour and 15 minutes. Fuck it, we'll keep going.
Come on, Tim. This is why I came over.
Yeah,
wear my England shirt.
We have an organization to our World Cup talk. Tim, do you want to make the announcement about what we talked about earlier to start that conversation, or not?
Wait, what?
About doing recap shows.
Oh, yeah. So we were talking about doing this, and Dan, I think for us, the thought was we do our live show on Monday,
Right.
in studio for Atlanta United, and then maybe periodically during the week or maybe once a week we all get on Skype or on Hangouts or something like that and record a
Nice.
recap show of the World Cup.
Nice.
Let us know in the trap if you guys would be receptive to that. And it looks like Michelle already is. And if you guys are listening to us on iTunes or on one of your podcast platforms, leave us a note on Twitter. Let us know what you think about.
No, not on Twitter. Leave us a note on iTunes in an iTunes review, because that's the only way I'm getting more content out is if we get some love for what we're already putting out. That's the deal here.
Okay. It seems like everybody's going to check it out if we do that. Okay. So elephant in the room, the lion in the room, I guess, as it were, England's result today. It's kind of the freshest. The last game of today playing against, as the Brits like to call it, Tunisia, which I'm pretty sure it's
God,
Tunisia.
that was driving me nuts.
Tunisia.
That's how you say it?
Tunisia. Yes.
Tunisia.
Do you say do you say I've got amnesia?
I say potato.
Well, that's help at least, or that's helpful at least. Bill Holcomb says, "Can we get Kevin off the 2008 phone for a calling version of the show?" Yeah, we'll make sure to do that. I think it's we've anyway. We're not going to beat Kevin up over that. That's not his fault.
No,
it's our fault for not being able to find the freaking cables. Anyway, England's result today. They should have won 5-0, man.
They should have won 5-0.
Was that Lingard or Sterling that just completely muffed that first chance?
That was Sterling.
It was Sterling on a wide open chance on the opposite post. The ball that got played across to him from Trippier, I believe.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the leave?
Yes.
Trippier had a great game.
Yes, he's a fantastic fullback, which I cannot say about Kyle Walker.
Oh my God. On the wing, which I was surprised he got the start. I thought Danny Rose might get that because
but that's the left wing position, right?
Right, but I mean, yeah, Kyle Walker. I mean, 50 million they paid for him.
I mean, it was a pretty solid elbow that he threw in the box.
Yeah,
my favorite thing that they taught me as a defender growing up was whenever you can't see somebody and you're challenging for a ball, just to throw one of your arms and throw your elbow backwards at kind of head length. So,
yeah, that was a terrible penalty. It was definitely a penalty. I'm not gonna debate that. But I will say that we should have had 2 other penalties when guys are trying to body slam Harry Kane on 2 separate occasions.
You know, I have no sympathy for Harry Kane.
Harry Kane's the man.
I'm pretty sure he tried to claim that penalty that Tunisia scored to go towards his golden boot.
I'd give it to him. That's fine. I don't care about golden boot.
He would bet on his mother's life that goal was scored by him.
I want that guy on my team.
No, but seriously, I mean, if we'll look at the lineups really quick for this game. I guess 3 back, but at the same time, I don't know. I guess I just want to see my boy Trent Alexander-Arnold in the game. I think he's a much better defender than Kyle Walker is, and I think he's better in some ways getting up the field. I think he can cross the ball in better.
How old is he?
19.
So I thought that we went pretty safe at the back with Maguire, John Stones, who is going to be the rock, and Kyle Walker.
You think John Stones is going to be the rock? Because I thought Harry Maguire was outstanding in this game.
Harry Maguire was excellent, but because just with Harry Maguire was excellent in the game, but John Stones is going to be the anchor in that central midfield at the back.
Yeah.
So
anyway, we saw it. I saw it happening. You could feel that last goal coming.
Oh, yeah.
They've been building and missing chance after chance after chance after chance.
I felt it coming for the past 60 minutes.
I thought Rashford didn't start, did he?
No, he didn't. He got subbed on for Sterling.
So you saw Loftus-Cheek and then Rashford and Eric Dyer come in.
So Sterling did not have his greatest game. I saw a couple of plays in the first half where he was actually trying to muscle guys off and hold them off the ball, which he did relatively successfully. But then it was like in the final third, he just he was like he couldn't string passes together, and then he was getting muscled off himself. So,
what are your thoughts on Jordan Henderson as captain? Is there anybody else on this team that really can fit that role?
Well, Harry Kane was the captain.
Oh yeah, you're right. Sorry,
that's okay. And I tend to forget he was great. Oh, great about it. If we win the World Cup, Harry Kane needs to get knighted.
Is Jordan Henderson vice captain then?
Probably.
I could or maybe in qualifying he was.
He may have done, but he's had experience as captain in the Premier League, right?
Jordan Henderson? He's been Liverpool's captain the past 2 years.
I thought he played a pretty good game.
My bad on that. For some reason,
he's in a good position to take that captain's armband.
Yeah,
if Kane's not out, but hopefully that never happens.
Yeah. What do you think? I don't know. We could talk all day about this. I guess yeah. I feel stupid for saying that because
Yeah. Well, I mean, Tunisia, as you like to say. I thought they played an okay game. I guess they were a lot more gung ho in the first half, and then when they got the penalty, they were just trying to close up shop. I believe in the last 45 minutes of regulation, they actually had one chance on goal, which didn't equate to anything anyway. And then it was the final 2 minutes after we got that winner. They were just trying to pile on the pressure, and they weren't that great. They're going to have a tough time. They're going to get killed by Belgium.
I mean, who isn't? I mean, Kevin, that Belgium game was something. I mean, it seemed like Panama had, kind of a. I mean, they battled for a little bit.
Panama tried to pull Mexico out and just couldn't actually pull it together. Where they came out, they were riding the high. Belgium let them kind of get settled and feel like they were in it for the first half, and then everything out the gate in the second half went completely upside down.
Oh yeah, they didn't play. But I mean, well, at the half, Portugal. What am I talking about? Belgium scored all their goals in the second half, right?
Yeah, they scored all three in their second
But yeah,
half.
it was. I didn't see all of that game, but it made me hopeful for England when we play them. That's all. I mean, everything that I talk about at the World Cup is like, oh, how would England do on that? And unless it's nothing to do with England, then I can probably objectively.
So an interesting thing that I heard them talking about during the Belgium game is that those two games today were the biggest discrepancies in global soccer rankings between teams in the World Cup so far. So the England Tunisia game and the Belgium game were both. I think Belgium's like number 3 and Panama's 20 something, and it was something similar for the England game. So I think the England Belgium matchup's definitely the one to watch in that group.
Oh, absolutely. I'm really nervous about that. I feel like that we should beat Panama, but I could see us losing that because I'm an England fan. But that Belgium game I'm gonna be terrified.
It took them a while. It took them let's say for the past 12 years, really, right? Or I guess 8 years, because if you go back 8 years, it's the last 3 World Cups. They've been dark horses, right?
Belgium.
Yeah.
Yes.
8 years ago, they were a dark horse. 4 years ago, they were a darker horse when they got to the quarterfinals or semifinals. It was semis,
quarters,
or was it?
Probably.
They made it further than most people expected, but at the same time,
I feel like they've
had a world-class player.
They've never lived up to expectations in any of their competitions.
They've had a world-class player playing in 8 of the 11 spots on the field for the past, 8 years, probably.
It's just ridiculous. It's like 6 years ago, it was like, oh my gosh, all these Belgians are amazing. Like, where did they come from?
Yeah,
well, they came from Belgium.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, you have Divock Origi, who ends up having a terrible run of form after his great run in World Cup 2014. And then you have Dries Mertens, who was kind of coming into his own at that time, who's now an unbelievable scorer at Napoli. Yeah. And his goal today was unreal.
Yeah.
It was unreal. It was so casual, too, the way that he did that. He just kind of like karate kicked it.
So that's a good segue into some of the topics going forward.
Hold on.
World Cup discussion.
So
go ahead.
That assist from Kevin De Bruyne on the outside of his...
The first Lukaku goal?
I think the header. The header.
Yeah, that was the first one.
from a dead ball situation from the outside of his foot,
Yeah.
standing.
It was sick.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, but if he doesn't hit that, you say he's too right-footed.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah.
I was thinking that today too with Eden Hazard. For as much shit as we talk about Almiron not having a right foot, Eden Hazard does not have a left foot.
I love Eden Hazard.
Do you?
I think, I really do like
he
him.
just rubs me the wrong way for some reason. He's just one of those players, I think.
Yeah.
So, Kevin, again, into those topics that you were talking about, because we'll leave. Do you want to leave the juicy Landon Donovan stuff for the end?
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
So, just a couple of topics. Now that we're coming up on a weekend, what would be your goal of the tournament so far? I'll open it up. I think it also ties back into one of the better games this weekend, which is the Coutinho goal. I guess that was yesterday.
You could call the Coutinho goal of the tournament, but really, everybody knows that it was Mexico's goal against Germany. Everybody loved that. That was great stuff. Every time the Germans lose, it doesn't happen a lot, so I can, I just get this where I can.
The only other goal that I could possibly conceive would be Tim's pick.
Yeah. Well, no. Okay. So Dries Martin's goal was amazing. And then you had Ronaldo's. I go back and forth. There are three goals, right? I mean, the Coutinho goal. I still have a huge place in my heart for that guy, and that goal that he scored was incredible. I listened to it on the radio, and then whenever I was able to get home and watch it, I was just like, "Holy shit!" They were not exaggerating on the broadcast.
Not at all.
Mhm.
And you can also make the argument that Ronaldo's free kick, despite the fact it wasn't in the run of play, it wasn't crazy.
It's because of the situation.
It was a game-winning game, but then again, it was one of those things like, okay, PK fouls him at that outside the edge of the box. I'm like, okay, great, they're about to draw this game. I was furious, but in that same game, I think for me, the goal of the tournament was that goal that Nacho scored.
Yeah, that was insane.
For me, I think it was so tactically clean, or the technique was clean is what I'm trying to say.
Mhm.
It was so tight. The speed at which he hit that ball with the outside of his foot, and how cleanly that bent into that bottom left corner. It was unreal.
Well, you just never see that trajectory on a ball.
No, not since Roberto Carlos was playing.
It goes upper. I mean, for him to keep that 18 inches above ground and just hover and curl in the way he did. I mean, it was a great strike off of a volley.
It was beautiful.
I mean, like I said, I think that and Coutinho's are probably my top two. There's been some great ones, though, to just be a couple of days into it. It's been a lot of fun to watch.
It's been a great tournament so far. Shout out to Nacho because he's diabetic just like me. And he can, there's no excuse for people using diabetes as something where they can't become a world-class football player.
Is Jay Cutler, speaking of American football, is Jay Cutler your favorite NFL player?
I want to get a Jay Cutler t-shirt. Yeah, I fucking love Jay Cutler.
Yeah, just because, again, same deal, playing with diabetes.
But
Does it bother you whenever you hear old American people call it diabetes?
Nah.
No? Diabetes, betas.
We're brothers.
Again, Argentina drawing against Iceland. That was another big one.
So I thought Iceland, that in the Euros, I thought they were just like a Cinderella team, but
like Wales.
Yes. But I actually think they may have something to make them consistent. I really didn't think they were going to do anything against Argentina.
If nothing else, they have a strategy that works in international soccer.
Yeah. They may be the Leicester of the World Cup.
I think the two heartbreaks so far for me. The first one was watching Mo watch longingly from the bench as Egypt scores the winner in the 90th minute. That was tough to see. But then the second one is just watching Messi beat himself up after missing that PK at the end of that Argentina game.
I was pretty sad to see the Morocco lose on the own goal towards the end.
That was heartbreaking to me because they dominated Iran for 80% of that game. Iran had some great chances on the counterattack, but that game really belonged to Morocco, and it was an absolute shame that your center forward that you bring in late into the game is defending near post on a set piece
Yeah.
and dives to go head it out, and it
Yeah.
goes in. It was unfortunate the way that game panned out, but they looked like a great team.
They did, and a couple of people I know, Total Soccer Show, were giving Morocco a lot of hype for being one of like the under the radar type of teams, and they really showed it. But to be honest, I think Iran really showed some of their mettle as well. I don't particularly think they deserved to win the game, but they weren't. I thought they were going to be more pushovers, just like a Saudi Arabia.
I definitely thought they would be sitting ducks. Saudi Arabia, ooh.
I mean, that's
that was
what I
awful.
expected from Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, I want to say, was it 2006? Whenever they I want to say they played Germany in Germany. Did they just play the host team every time?
I'm yeah, probably.
Because I feel like I want to say they lost 8-0 to Germany at some point.
They did. I think it was like
It was 06.
maybe 4 World Cups ago, something like that.
Maybe it was 02. It was either 02 or 06.
I think it was 02. I think you're right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Either way, yeah, Dirty Bird person brings up Peru. I mean, Peru played really, really well, and to not.
Oh my God, that Peru game! I might change my vote just because of the announcers in the Peru-Denmark game. That was the most entertaining thing to listen to the entire World Cup so far. I've never seen or heard actual play call as exciting as they were to call that game the entire time.
Yeah, I don't know. And to your point with Messi, I felt like that was less him missing that penalty. I thought that was not a bad hit. I just thought that was a great save by Iceland.
Oh, it's a great save.
I mean,
It was a great save, and he completely telegraphed where he was going. I mean, he kept his head up on the goal the entire time.
yeah, that's true. I mean, but all things considered, I mean, 9 times out of 10 that ball goes in, I think. And it's unfortunate because despite getting to the final in 2014, he's going to continue having that stigma on his back of not being able to win the big game when it all doesn't come down to him. I mean, they have a team that seems very disjointed for how much talent they have, and it kind of always felt like it's felt like that for probably the last 8-12 years to me, and they're a team that constantly underperformed because of that.
Yeah, they just have so much. It's like the old England teams. They just have so much pressure on them. It feels like that they always come up short.
You know, my favorite part of it wasn't Messi missing that penalty, but it was them panning over to Diego Maradona in the box, and then this guy probably like 4 people down just filming his disappointment. It just had the camera on him that was just recording him getting pissed off. At least his son-in-law scored, right? Aguero scored the goal for them.
Oh, he's his son-in-law?
Yeah, Diego
Wow.
Maradona's daughter married Kun Aguero probably like 10 years ago at this point. That was why he always had a ton of pressure on him for that reason, because he was the son-in-law to Argentina's god. What else?
But Aguero's never really performed with Argentina.
No, he hasn't.
I mean, he's great for City, but
Mexico.
Other 2 big games. I think the other big one was the Mexico-Germany game. Dan touched on it lightly. That was a game that I think was probably. I mean, whenever the last topic is what's been our favorite game this past week, I think Mexico-Germany probably had my favorite half of the game this week. The first half was up and down, and it was really exciting to watch. And they did what they had to do to win. That was a really fun game to watch, and that first half especially.
That was a great game to watch, Kevin. And I loved that Mexico just went out in that first half and tried to take it to Germany. And
they did everything they had to.
Exactly.
They had to do that.
And I loved that. They didn't give Germany any respect at all. They just went for it, which was great. And then I was really nervous when they took off Vela and bought on.
I was
defender.
too. It seemed very weird. I was listening again. I was on a long road trip, so I was listening to that game. Was Vela that exhausted that he needed to come out? I know they pressed like crazy on the counterattack, and they were running their asses off.
They did.
Their team was just exhausted and holding on the last 20 minutes of that game. I mean,
yeah,
you could tell that they were spent, and that's what everybody really saw coming. And I thought that Germany was going to be able to squeak in at least an equalizer, and they got really close a couple of times because of that. But ultimately, they held on, but they were all completely beat by the end of the game.
I think because they had 3 breakaways with like 2-on-1s and 3-on-2s. But I was yelling
They
at
had
the
no
TV.
support.
You needed to be faster. You need to be faster, and they were just spent from that first half. And
not just that, they just had no support even surging with them. They were just completely falling down as a result of it. Last game, I know we're kind of running up against it here. My goal of the week got to be the Spain-Portugal game. I think
game of the week.
That game had everything that you wanted to see. It
Yeah.
had skilled playmakers. It had skilled plays, really technical goals. I mean, you had set piece goals, everything. Two powerhouse teams, one of which I think is going to end up going on to win in Spain. Just my thought. I thought it was a great game.
No, I agree with you. And I think one of the things to take away from that game is that Portugal aren't as bad as, and bad's probably not the right word. I think people were a little down on them coming into this World Cup, and I don't think they need to be. I think they proved that they're not just a defensive player. I mean, Cristiano Ronaldo is not going to score a hat trick every time out, but I mean, he's certainly a threat to do that every time out.
But he's very well supported. Like it's not like Wales, for instance, who have Gareth Bale, and then there's a huge drop off apart from, I guess, Ramsey. But from Ronaldo to some of their other players like Pepe, they're not terrible players.
You comparing Pepe at this point to Ronaldo?
No, I'm like saying this.
No, I know.
He has a better supporting cast.
It is interesting to see that Ricardo Quaresma is still playing. That guy's so old at this point, it seems like. I feel like he's been in the game for 20 years at this point. Yeah, I agree with you. I think Spain showed a lot in that game. I think that one of the scariest things from that game that the rest of the world, or at least the other 31 teams in the World Cup, should be a little scared of by that game is that Diego Costa scored a brace. That is a man. If you want to talk about a guy who hasn't been able to show out for a national team, and it seems like there's been so much pressure put on his back, whether that's from Brazilians thinking that he turned coat on them, or Spaniards thinking that maybe he's not one of them, and that his earlier run of games for the national team had they weren't that spectacular. But the first goal that he scored, I mean, he was 1-on-2, and he just was able to juke his way to a cool finish from the top of the box.
It was for this game. I felt like Costa was the perfect player to head up Spain in that team. I think there was like 5 guys around him when he actually pulled the trigger on that, and plus the goalkeeper. An incredible individual effort. He did that all by himself.
Yes.
It blew my mind. You're exactly right. I think he's the scariest looking player.
Yeah,
this World Cup
in many ways.
You're ripe for a red card at some point.
Yeah,
I feel like he's the kind of guy who gets away with it.
Yeah, and I think it'll be a shame. I actually thought his first goal was going to get called off because I thought they were going to call him for the unintentional hand to the face on Pepe, or maybe that was the second goal.
So you're right. It's the same goal.
It was the first goal,
but
right? That was on his gather.
Looking back on the replays, I don't think there was much in there.
No, there wasn't. Pepe made a meal of it, which is hilarious to me.
So speaking of replays, Elliot Beeman has a good point, which is another thing I kind of wanted to touch on, at least briefly, which was any thoughts on VAR so far in the World Cup, or just the officiating in general? My thought's it's been pretty consistent. I don't really have a whole lot of negative to say about it.
No, I think the leadership going into this game, I think it maybe turned some heads whenever you saw the protocols laid out in front of the referees, at least the VAR. Actually, no, to the ARs, when they were saying leading into the World Cup is kind of changing their mindset on how offside is called.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about that previously, where it's better to not call it and then have to go back and review it like you do in football or American football. And I think they've done that well. And I think that's kind of set the tone, at least that rule, that mindset there. And I think that VAR has been fantastic. Has anything not been overturned whenever it's gone to VAR yet?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, so it's doing its job. It's missing those glaringly obvious errors and there haven't been that many. How many times has it gone? It's less than 10, right? That they've gone to the monitor at this point?
Something. It's been pretty.
You see the way that the officiating is relying on it, which is what I think it should be, is that they're making the call and then using that to uphold it, or they're completely. I think it was one of the first games last week. I forget who it was. Maybe it was the Russia-Saudi game where there was a player that took a dive in the box and the ref clearly waved it off, just made a huge ordeal about waving it off as if to say, like, we're not even using VAR for this, to set a tone for the rest of the tournament at that point. So
yeah, and they've been keeping the cards in their pockets for the majority of the time.
Yeah.
There have not been a lot of bookings.
The Pepe one didn't even go to VAR, did it?
No, I
didn't think so either. I think they were trying to hold up play to try and get that to happen.
Yeah, I think they haven't been looking at fouls leading up to a play because
which is great.
I forget I think Joe Patrick posted something on Twitter to that effect, and I immediately responded to him. Yeah, that's why the Martinez disallowed goal against the Red Bulls pissed me off so much. And the funny thing was when they have the adverts for VAR in between the games, it's like they use that Martinez goal or non-goal as the example, and Mark Geiger's in there like, oh yeah, 100%. we got it, 100%. No, Mark Geiger, and it just pissed me off even more.
He's like an FBI agent sitting in a van. Oh yeah, we got him. We got him. He's there.
He's like, 100%. I'm finally making a difference. Finally making a difference.
One of the biggest stories, at least in the States, with the World Cup so far, has been off the field with players that have nothing to do with the World Cup at the moment. And I don't know. So Landon Donovan, publicity stunt months ago whenever he signed for León in Mexico, which was crazy to me because you're talking about a guy who used to I'm pretty sure he used to piss on the side of the El Azteca, or the El Azteca, but on the side of El Azteca whenever they were down there playing Mexico. And he's always been very disrespectful on the field. They're very heated in their rivalry and all that. Now he's done a complete about face, right, Kevin?
Yeah, so much so he caused an earthquake during the celebration in Mexico because he brought on so many new fans to the Mexican national team.
Wasn't that insane?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts.
What, that he would tie his name to Wells Fargo or the earthquake? I can't remember who put it up there. I think it was, I want to say it was one of our listeners, Charlie Benovitz. I may be pronouncing his last name wrong, but he posted the story about Landon Donovan getting money or something like that. Or no, it was a story about Wells Fargo having to pay $150 million lawsuit for being racist in their lendings. And he's like, and this is the company that Landon Donovan is representing Mexico with. It just seems very appropriate. Anyway, so Landon Donovan comes out. Let me see if I can find the exact tweet from.
Is this in response to Bocanegra?
I think my favorite thing that's come out about this, and there's been a lot more than I expected, especially the stuff, the back and forth between him and Carlos Bocanegra and stuff like that. But my favorite thing is that this whole scarf thing has become a meme, and people replacing the Mexico lettering with whatever they want to from a memes perspective. That's been the most entertaining point about all of this, is just that it's become a meme already.
Yeah.
Well, my favorite part about the whole thing was our trusty GM coming out and just lambasting him with one word and just said, really, whenever Landon Donovan was coming out and telling everybody to support Mexico and all that. And then Landon Donovan has since deleted the tweet, but of course, Twitter and the internet live forever. And Landon Donovan quote tweeted Carlos Bocanegra with one of the most ridiculous things, saying, "You grew up in SoCal and owe much of your soccer skill to playing with Mexicans. Your father is of Mexican descent, facepalm. Look around our country. Are you happy with how we are treating Mexicans? Open your mind, stand for something, and remember where you came from," which is the dumbest, biggest slap in the face, talk down to, I think Jay Riddle, our buddy and one of the hosts of Unrelegated on the Home Before Dark Network, he'd put on one of the best comments on there. He's like, did you really just question his or call him out for not being Mexican enough? He's like, it's just crazy to me that one of the things that first pops into my mind with this is that politics and football, soccer, whatever, are supposed to be completely separate, right? So much so that FIFA, if a government gets involved with a national team's FA, they sometimes disqualify them from competition. Like, it's supposed to be an apolitical thing, even though it does have political impact. But you don't cheer for people for political it just seems kind of silly to me. And then to talk down to Bocanegra for questioning that, him, taking marketing dollars to pump up El Tri, which is a team that he hated playing against.
I mean, if someone tried to pay me I still wouldn't cheer for Germany. Being an England fan.
The first thing I said whenever Dan walked in with the England shirt is England. Dan says, "Sorry, I had to wear this tonight." I was like, "I'd much rather be cheering for that than El Tri." I just still can't cheer for Mexico. I mean, it's a rivalry thing. I'm not going to cheer for the Patriots when they're in a Super Bowl. I'm not going to cheer for.
No, I wouldn't either.
Yeah, I'm not going to cheer for Alabama.
I'm certainly not going to cheer for the Saints.
Yeah,
or anything
exactly.
stupid like that. Or Orlando.
It just seems silly to me to tell people who they have to. I have no problem with people because of proximity, whatever reason they have for cheering for Mexico, but you shouldn't shame somebody for not cheering for Mexico and then
Right.
tell them that they need to be socially and politically conscious whenever making a decision not to cheer for a team. It just seems absolutely absurd outside of maybe DPRK back in 2006 or 2010, whenever it was.
Yeah, no, I understand that there are a ton of Mexican fans in this country, but I don't know. For Landon Donovan and Alexi Lalas, it feels pretty cheap for them to be promoting Mexico in this way because
they don't have a choice. They've got their
well, that's
their
exactly
personalities,
my
and they
point,
have no
Kevin.
American soccer team to cheer for in the World Cup, and they've got to position themselves in a global market as a television personality in some way, and one of the best ways to do that is just to have some sort of relevancy with some team, at least based on proximity, it seems like.
Well, exactly, because I mean, it's just for marketing dollars.
Yeah,
That's all it is.
Completely put on.
Yeah, Dirty Bird person brings this up. Rob Rosary with an MVP like tweet earlier saying that after Landon Donovan apologized, said the new USMNT coach needs to hire Landon Donovan to teach our defenders how to backtrack so quickly. Yeah, so I don't know. It's absolutely unbelievable that we have a USMNT legend talking down to another, and then kind of scolding them for not being Mexican enough.
You're absolutely right, Elliot Beavan. They should cheer for England.
No, I should cheer for Spain. I still have to. I brought my Spanish flag home from my parents' house, which I had there for whenever I was in college. I need to get it back up and put it up in the studio. Do you have an England flag at home?
Not a flag, no.
Get one. We'll put it up in the studio. Kevin's cheering for Spain, so at least I think you're cheering for Spain, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the only other country I've lived in outside of the U.S. So
same here, dude.
Netherlands are out and the U.S. are out. I'm kind of grasping at straws here.
So do we want to? I mean, this can change every week. Do we want to pick an eventual World Cup winner?
Oh, it's Spain
at this point in time.
We both pick Spain.
So I actually think Portugal are going to win it.
You think so?
At this point in time? Yeah, I feel like they have. Portugal seem to have the luck that you need to get you through.
Yeah, it seemed like they had that in 14 too.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and in the
Euros, yeah,
they won the Euros,
16,
right?
yeah,
16 against France. Was that France in the final that they beat?
I can't remember who it was. I don't think it was France. I think it was like a lesser team.
France was a team that I was not very impressed with at all. I was expecting that coming in too.
That was one of the 6 a.m. games, so I didn't watch anything on that.
Let's see. One last thing I do.
Oh, yeah,
it was France that Portugal beat. Yeah. So
interesting.
Anyway,
cool.
I think that kind of wraps it up after an hour and 47 minutes running.
I was going to say, you might want to just split this episode whenever we start talking about World Cup and upload it as 2 episodes on iTunes.
Nah. Sounds like a lot of effort, Kevin.
Everybody, we really enjoyed it. If you want to hang out with us, and maybe I'll actually get out of the office.
Oh, Friday. We didn't even talk about it.
No, save the best for last. If they waited around for an hour or 45 minutes, they deserve to know now. So this Friday, June 22nd at 4 o'clock, Jeff Lorenowitz will be out at Elder Tree Pub.
What?
And so we will be out there. Come by, hang out, say hey, and should be a good time.
Oh yeah, we have one last thing. There is a rumor of us signing a midfielder from Argentina, Eric Remedi. It seems like Tata is mum about the transfer at the moment. So it seems like 4 days ago that Dirty South Soccer had reported a rumor of Remedi signing for us. But at the same time, we don't want to.
Have you seen his highlight videos?
No, I haven't.
Good. Seems very aggressive.
Okay,
I like
great.
it. He seems to be, to me anyway, He seems to be a good mix between a Lorenowitz and a Carmona. He will be a destroyer.
Okay,
Plus, weirdly, and people may think I'm stupid for thinking this, he kind of looks like a Latino version of Tim Tebow. But anyway.
Yes. Anyway, we also thought that Stefan Mbia was all but signed, so I'm gonna go ahead and not get too excited about this signing, even though we do need somebody to replace Jeff Lorenowitz at some point. Even though I think it's likely that it's going to be Oliver Shannon or a combination of Chris Goslin and Oliver Shannon. Kevin, take us out.
So, as we mentioned before, be sure to check out awaydaysfootball.com. Get yourself one of those mystery kits. Use promo code HB4D. Really enjoyed seeing Greg out at the pool. Looking forward to seeing some more pictures of you guys wearing those. Always good to see new and interesting clubs to find out. However you found us, be sure to hit 5 stars and leave us a review to hear it read aloud on the show. If you found us on iTunes, be sure to subscribe, hit that little bell icon to find out, even with technical difficulties, whenever we go live and start broadcasting, you'll always get a notification on your phone so you can come tune in live in the trap, talk with us like everybody else in the trap did tonight. Thanks, Michelle, Elliot, Bill, Dirty Bird Person, everybody. If I'm missing you, you know we love you guys. So thanks for checking us out. However you found us, be sure to continue to do so on Twitter. Dan, where can they find you at?
You can find me at DNJMS.
Tim, what about you?
You can find me at TIMHERB.
Find me as well at The Architect. That's at _ARC. The number 1 TECT. Collectively at Home Before Dark. That's before spelled B and the number 4. Once again, we'll be out at Elder Tree in East Atlanta Village this Friday, June 22nd at 4 p.m. for the Jeff Lorenowitz signing. Come by, hang out, meet Jeff, and have a beer with us. I've got $3 Heineken on draft, so pretty good deal. So we'll get some more World Cup action rolling for you, and look forward to the next one. As always, be home before dark.
Let's open the roof and let it rain.
Yeah, it's he definitely looks like Tebow.
Good. I'm glad someone